Good afternoon and welcome to 365 Days of Stories with Theo Mayer, day 66. And today I'm going to begin the story of Governor Manco and the soldier. Now remember, Governor Manco, he had one arm, and on top of that, he was a pretty gruff guy who took things, he took control whenever he needed to, took things into his own hands. And now remember that he was trying to rid the Alhambra of vagrants, people that were basically living under the walls or in deserted buildings, gypsies and the like, no goods. And people that made it hard for the wealthy to keep their wealth because they would rob from them in one way or another. So Governor Manco had put troops out, patrols, to bring in and question any suspicious characters at all. Well, it turned out that one day, the corporal, and you might remember the corporal from the story before, the one who had shot one of the custom house guards and then had been put in prison, had almost ended up hung had it not been for the wily governor who got him out. So that corporal was sitting with a couple of other men under the walls of the Generalife in the shade. It was the afternoon when out from around the corner came a foot soldier in rather well-worn garb, leading an Arabian horse that was caparisoned in typical Morisco fashion. Now remember, caparison is that shroud that would go over a horse, and a nice caparisoned horse, especially an Arabian, looked just incredible. They hold their heads high, and they have such beautiful physiques. I think they're the most beautiful horses that there are. So this was a beautiful black Arabian horse, and this foot soldier was leading it by its bridle, by the reins of its bridle. And as he came up to the soldiers, corporal had immediately stood up, had the other two guards, and the corporal asked, "Who goes there?" And this soldier said, "A friend." And the corporal said, "Yes, what kind of friend is that?" And the soldier said, "Just an old soldier returning from the wars, but with nothing but scars and bruises and an empty pocket or an empty purse." And the corporal said, "And what are you doing leading this horse?" And the soldier said, "Well, this is a very strange story indeed. And, well, can you tell me, though, what city is this that lies below us?" And the corporal raised his eyebrows and was, "What city?" And the soldier said, "Yes, what city is this?" The corporal replied, "Well, this is the great city of Granada." "Ah, mi Dios," said the soldier. "I cannot believe it. This is the city of Granada? And this is where the great Governor Manco, he resides? Then I must see him, because I have very, very important news to share with him." "Well," said the corporal, "that is where you're going to be going." And with this, he called the other two guards, who seized the soldier on either side. And the corporal took up the reins of the Arabian steed and began to walk. And as he did, he said to his guards, "Forward, march!" And the soldier and the guards began to walk forward, following him. Now, I will tell you that this soldier, he wore a black band across his forehead that was kind of tilted to one side, and he had a grisly black beard. He looked like he hadn't been able to keep himself up for quite a long time. He was dusty, his clothes were dusty and dirty. He made quite a figure. And, he looked kind of like a vagabond, but he did have the uniform of a foot soldier, just really tattered and beat up uniform. So here they are marching into the Alhambra, to the palace of Governor Manco. And as they're marching along, you can imagine all the people who were watching this procession. Now, as you may remember from our water carrier story of long ago, people, they gravitated around the fountains. And that was where people talked about things and shared whatever gossip or news there was. And the corporal and his two guards and the soldier and the Arabian horse were now walking past one of the main fountains in the Alhambra. And as they did, people noticed and they began talking. What is going on here? What is this Arabian horse? And it looks like a foot soldier, but maybe it's a bandolero or a bandito. Who knows? Now, I will tell you that in those parts, there had been a robber, someone who had been able to evade the law and at the same time make off with the wealth of a great number of people. And some said, "Oh, I'll bet you that is the captain of the robbers." And now he is finally caught. And everybody began to agree to this story, that this was indeed the captain of the robbers. And oh my, when Governor Manco would get him, this was going to be the end. He would never get himself free because everyone knew how tough a guy Governor Manco was. Well, they made their way up to the palace. Now, Governor Manco was having his afternoon hot chocolate. And he was sitting there in his meeting room with his friar, who was his confessor. He would share, how you were supposed to go to confession. Well, the governor had the friar come to him in order to do his confessions. And so he was sitting there with the friar, having hot chocolate, and was being served by a demure maiden, one who was basically at the beck and call of the governor, but at the same time, in some way, was in utter control of the governor. She had some wily way about her that she was able, to win his trust and at the same time somewhat control or manipulate the governor at the same time. So who knows how she was able to do this, but she was. Well, a servant came in to Governor Manco and said, the corporal is outside and he has a prisoner that has requested to see you, and it seems that you need to see him. And of course, the governor was kind of delighted by this because it sounded like something that could be very important. So he passed his hot chocolate cup to the demure maiden, and he then kind of brushed up his mustache a little bit so he could look quite good. He sat up taller and straighter in his chair, and he put on a rather stern and gruff-looking face. And he told the servant, "Bring them in." Well, the door was opened, and in the corporal came, and he had by the arm the old soldier. Now, the Arabian steed, of course, had been kept outside, and the two guards, they were waiting by the door, whether to come in or to stay out. They didn't know quite what to do. And the governor, he looked at this old soldier, and he said, "Yeah, and you culprit, what are you doing here, and what is your business?" And the soldier said, "Well, I'm simply a soldier returning from the wars with nothing but scars and bruises and an empty purse. And at the same time, I have an incredible tale I must tell you, because I have something that is of great importance to the safety of you and the people of Granada." And the governor said, "Ah, you do? And what is that?" Well, the soldier said, I'm sorry, but the story is for your ears alone. I'm not willing to share it publicly." Well, the governor thought for a moment, and he looked at the corporal, and he said, "You can go. Please wait outside the door, and if I call, come quickly. Now," he turned to the soldier, "this is my friar, completely trustworthy. He shall stay. And this is my most trusted maidservant, and she knows and holds all information closely. I would like her to stay as well. If you have no problems with that, you may proceed." Well, the soldier, he glanced at the maiden, somewhat between a squint and a leer, I'm not sure what, and some eye exchange took place between the two. And he said, "Fine, I'm okay with her staying." And so he began his story. He said, "Well, Governor Manco, Your Excellency, last night I was making my way to my home in Andalusia. And as I was making my way, which seemed to be a long way, I wondered where I might stop. Now, I didn't know for sure. I had come through the town of Old Castle, and I was on my... Wait, said the governor. "You were in Old Castle last night? That is 200 to 300 miles away from here. How can that possibly be?" The soldier, I must tell you that the soldier was fluent and converse in a way that, well, it far exceeded his rank as a foot soldier. He went on. Your governor, Your Excellency, this is why I felt it so important that I talk to you and share to you my story. But indeed, as the truth of my story will be played out, I was in Old Castle last night, looking for a place to stay. Now, we'll leave the story there. I want to hear about the story of the soldier. How did he travel 200 to 300 miles, end up with an Arabian steed? I'm going to have to hear about this. Okay, join tomorrow. Hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, whatever it may be. And thank you for joining.